Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the Backlog Tackle, a Use Your Stuff challenge. This has been a long time in the making. Last summer, I realized that I was tired of feeling suffocated in my house, especially because this house is technically meant for more people that are currently in it, because it's just my husband and I in here, and it's technically meant for a family. And so I thought to myself, why do I feel suffocated in a house that's meant to be big enough for us? And the answer was, of course, we just have too much stuff, way too much stuff that we just never used. Now, last summer, I spent a lot of time clearing out and decluttering and reorganizing. Admittedly, I dropped off a lot more bags at the thrift store than I would be comfortable with because thrift stores already get more stuff than they can handle, but we also buy a lot from the thrift store. And the general idea was that we would not be buying a lot of stuff to replace that. But now I'm kind of at the next level of that challenge, whereas I have a bunch of stuff that I know I don't want to throw out, at least right now, but I'm still not fully using. That's where this challenge comes in. Now, it is very similar to a lot of the other challenges you may have seen going around online that are community and hobby specific. If you're a reader, there's been a Zero TBR and Read Your Shelves challenges for years, and recently everyone's coming up with their own cute name for their own Read Down Your TBR challenge, Emboss or Toss, Shelve or Scrap, Read or Yeet, like all of these cute ones. I'm low-key kind of bummed that when I completed my Zero TBR challenge, I just called it a Zero TBR challenge. I didn't have anything cute for it. But regardless, there are also things like if you're a fashionista girly, there's Shop Your Closet. If you're a beauty and makeup girly, there's Project Pan, where you hit pan or use up your makeup products. There's also for crafters, a D-stash or a stash down. So it's in that same vein of things. And since I love watching those kind of videos, as well as low buys and no buys, I thought I should try making one of my own, even though this is technically a booktube channel. Now, this challenge is a little bit different than some of those other ones because it's not hobby or niche specific. It was literally me going around my house being like, what things do I have that I don't use that I need to use? And then making a list. And each of these different areas will have their own goal to be met. And it is not always going to be I counted it up, here's all the numbers, here's the number I want to get to, because, well, some of these are just too much. So we're going with more broad, more visual goals, or more I want this to fit in a specific area comfortably goals. But also, some of them aren't going to be consumables at all. They're not going to be things to be used up. They're going to be things that I just have and need to use and reuse and use again. Or I need to accept that I'm not actually going to use that thing and either donate or sell, or in other ways, get it out of the house. Hopefully donate or sell. I don't actually want to add anything to a landfill if I can avoid it. But regardless, what are these areas? What am I going to be using? Now, the first one we have is electronics. These are the things that are going to be used but not consumed. Not pictured here is the Wii sitting in the living room that I have gotten a little bit of use of in the last 6 months, but not a lot. And I just got some of my favorite old Just Dance games. So at some point I do want to make a day of playing those games, or at least make a workout or something of it. But I do have these other ones. This one I just discovered that we have. I casually mentioned to my husband that oh man, I wish we had an external CD player because I would love to start getting more into physical media. And he's like, oh, we already have one. Because he lived here before I did. So he already had a bunch of stuff in this place. But I do want to start using this. We have a whole old collection of DVDs and such that I want to start rewatching. Maybe keep an eye out for other old favorites or things I'm interested in if I go out to thrift stores and see what CDs or DVDs they have. So I do want to start using that a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit tricky, I think, because my brain just doesn't like watching fictional narratives very often. I can read a book a day when I'm feeling it, but watching a 2-hour movie I have to prepare myself for. Don't know why. So that might be a little bit trickier, but I do have a lot of old favorites in the house sitting in the office that I want to get to. So hopefully I could do that a little bit more. We also have The piece of technology that I would be forgiven for not using, because this is a Nook and it has already been removed from support. Barnes & Noble doesn't support it anymore, which sucks because despite having this thing for longer than a decade, it still works well. Like, I could still be using this. The battery is still pretty good. And I used this thing very regularly for a stretch of time. I had this before I had a smartphone because growing up poor. So I was like really into this, but I do still have a lot of books on it, including a lot of favorites that I would like to reread. So I think that's what I'm going to use it for. Do a series of rereading all of my favorite old books that are still on here, which I'm still only going to get it limited use out of it in that respect, but it is still used because I am not going to let a corporation force me into upgrading to a shittier version of what I already have. Like, you cannot convince me that even if I took the, trade this in to get the $80, $90 credit to get another one or whatever, would give me something as good as this. It lasted nearly a decade, over a decade. I don't trust that they're going to come up with something as good as this. The unshittification of the world is just in full swing, and I don't trust any technology anymore. Okay, but conspiracy aside, I also have an old 2DS. I got this as a present for graduating from grad school in 2017, and I've barely played it. I have discovered I don't like platformers. I just find them boring. I do have a Pokemon game, however. I don't remember which one. And also, this thing is, of course, backwards compatible, so I could do Game Boy games. And we love going to toy shows and those kinds of stuff, so I could very easily start building up a Game Boy game collection if I wanted to, but I gotta make sure I actually want to play this first. And I'm not sure how exactly to go about it because, like, when I'm sitting thinking I want a game, I usually default to mobile games. So, like, I'm gonna have to, like, force myself to keep this in my thoughts a little bit more and revert to it when I'm bored more often. But I'm not exactly sure yet how to keep it, like, in focus without just leaving it sitting out on an already crowded surface all the time. So, if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. I come to you from the least organized room in my house to show you my greatest shame, and that is my yarn collection. This dresser behind me is all full of yarn. Plus, this laundry basket, plus this old bedding container, all full of yarn. And that's just what's in this room. There's also a basket and a set of 3 drawers out in the living room, also all full of yarn. And ironically, this happened because I was trying to be eco-friendly. If you've never shopped for yarn at thrift stores, a lot of thrift stores will actually put the yarn skeins together in bulk, and to get any of them, you have to buy the entire thing. And it's usually pretty cheap. You can get like 4 to 5 skeins for like $5, but you have to get them. And so if you're on a big project and you need a specific color and you keep buying up these bulk packages to get that color, you end up with a lot. And then I got gifted 2 separate stashes in 6 months. Didn't expect that. My sister-in-law is very stereotypical ADHD and suddenly decided she was done with all crochet, and so gave me several tubs. And then my coworker's mother passed away, and she was a knitter, and they had all of this giant amount of yarn and whips to get rid of. Just so we're clear, they did keep some. I think my coworker kept one project and her aunt kept another to like finish in her honor. But she was a classic fiber artist and had a cajillion whips. So now I have a lot of whips that have to be unraveled and rewound into their yarn before they can be used. So this is going to be the hardest one to get through. I have already put out a video on why I'm struggling with this so much because of one project in particular, my most cursed crochet project. So if you want to watch that video, I will have it down in the description. But generally speaking, this is going to take me the longest, I think. I do have a couple stash busting projects in mind. I had just realized that I could make floor pillows. I don't know why I'm currently obsessed with floor pillows. Part of it is because where I work, we use floor pillows for the kids at school sometimes as like a calm down incentives. So, maybe that'll help. But in general, I'm going to end up doing a lot of crochet, I think. But this is still going to take me years. The end goal for all of this, rather than having a specific number of skeins, because again, I'm going to keep getting my yarn secondhand, so I don't have the most control over when I can get certain colors. But generally speaking, I want to have all of the yarn fit in here when it is not being used, the drawers in the living room when it's in the middle of a project, and then the basket for scrap yarn. I essentially want to create a kind of yarn life cycle for everything going through here. And that will be fine. So I got to get everything out of here and everything out of here. Either used up or get enough in here used up that I can put all of this in there. We're talking several years at this point. This is going to be a pretty epic stash down. But you know what? I love crochet. So let's go. Hello. Welcome to my other big shame. I am once again sitting on the floor in penance, and that is my notebooks. I have many of them. The biggest hurdle to this one is consolidating all of them down and just figuring out what specific uses I want to use them for and then sticking to those uses, because a lot of these have the most random stuff in them. Right? It'll be like free writes for stories, maybe some brainstorming, but also random to-do lists and prepping for old TikTok or BookTube videos or notes for books I reviewed. Like it's just a lot of random stuff. So I gotta like consolidate all of it down, figure out what I really need to keep. I am going to be putting all of my free writes for stories in here. Yeah, I used to collect wrestling stickers, fun fact. But the problem with that is that some of these, it will be fairly easy, right? Find a free write in here. If it's in a normal, like, sized notebook, just pull it out, put it in the binder. But if they're in something like, you know, this sized, which would never really work in a binder, I'm going to have to rewrite whatever in there into the notebook. And I know for a fact that this old sketchbook alone has a ton of free writes. So that's going to take a while. And I've already discovered as I was going through it for the first time that there's a lot of nearly empty notebooks in here. So I definitely have to figure out like, okay, what do I need a notebook for? Okay, this is the to-do list notebook. This is the prepping BookTube videos to-do list, because I have a nasty tendency of just reaching for whatever notebook is closest, and then I end up with a ton of partially filled notebooks instead of one that I can work my way through to the end. Now, for everything that is getting thrown out, it will be put in my compost. When I finally get it started again, hopefully the ground will thaw before too much longer. It will need browns. It was kind of light on browns when I finished last season. So we will start with that. And I do like the, I like the energy. You know, it's the pagan in me, but like putting to-do lists into a compost, like putting what I used to be productive and putting it into being productive in another way. Like I just like the vibe. I just like that. And just for everyone wondering, the ink is fine. It's a small enough amount that it doesn't matter as much. I did my research, and you can't put like full pages of like color photos in there. But if you made like a to-do list on a piece of paper, that ink isn't going to be that big of a deal. And I know for a fact that my compost has been thriving because I constantly catch little things growing in it. So that's good. Excited to use it for my garden this year because I just started it last year, so I didn't get to like properly start the garden with the compost. But this is going to take me forever. And when I'm done, though, I will have plenty of empty notebooks for solo TTRPGs, because when I play solo TTRPGs, I do like a solid, this is the notebook for this game style. So I'll have more of those. And then in general, I'll have more like notebook for journaling purposes, like actual, like, here's what I did today journaling purposes, because I have been doing that for, wow, this December it'll be 15 years. That's insane. So the trick is I just got to like not panic about having a lot of empty notebooks and just remind myself that it just means that I won't need to buy any more for a very long time. Up next is another one that I might work on consuming, or I might realize that I'm just not a fan and I need to get rid of it. And that is nail polish. As you can see, I'm already working on this one. I, again, get most of mine from thrift stores. I'm hanging out in the line at Stuff Etc., waiting to check out, and all of their beauty stuff is right there. And, oh, that's kind of a cute color of nail polish. And I like painting my nails sometimes. And the next thing you know, you have dozens and you haven't painted your nails in 6 months. So I am putting it back into my schedule, and I am planning on making painting my nails a regular part of my Sunday nights. I prep my clothes for the week on Sundays. So my idea is prep the clothes, get it all together, get the general vibe of what that week of clothing is going to be, and then paint the nails either a color that works or a level of vibrancy that works to match all of them, more or less. So hopefully, if I can get that into the regular schedule, I do like myself a good Sunday reset, a good let's prepare for the week ahead vibe. I do like that, and I feel like painting my nails could become a good part of that. Or I could get bored of having to, constantly wipe off all the old nail polish and get sick of it. Don't know yet. I am prepared to just be like, okay, nail polish isn't for me, bye. Or I could get really back into it, like the good bisexual I'm supposed to be. The old joke that you can tell how well a bisexual is doing by how her nails look. Anyway, this next one is one that I could show you, but I'm not willing to sit on the floor again for this video, and that is art supplies. I don't have a ton. I do have some that I could use up, just, again, getting things from thrift stores and in just slightly too big amounts, but I want to try getting into art again. I did a bit of drawing at one point last year, and I did start getting into it. I love making butterflies with geometric patterns on their wings. And at some point, I do want my Christmas present to my nieces and nephew to be a coloring book that I designed. But my current goal right now to actually use this stuff up is I want to use one of my sketchbooks to the end. Something on every page, not half-assed. I'm not exactly sure what all of that is going to be. I could always get back into drawing fan art of the Winions from Epic the Musical. But I haven't fully decided yet. I am going to need to start looking into more inspiration and just accepting that I am currently entering into it's going to suck, but you got to learn how to do all the intricacies of the human body type nonsense. Or, I don't know, maybe I'll default to chibis. I haven't decided yet. I'm still in just this sketching to sketch. But regardless, I do want to develop this skill a little bit, because if I do end up becoming an indie author one day, it would be nice to be able to make and design my own covers. I think that would be a lot of fun. But more than that, it's just, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the process. I just gotta, again, remind myself that it's a thing I can do. It's a hobby I have at my disposal to pick up when I'm thinking of something to do. This next one, is going to reveal me for the millennial white woman that I am, and that is adult coloring books. Now, in my defense, I got most of these from thrift stores, because when the millennial adult coloring book trend broke, it broke hard. And now these things are fucking everywhere in thrift stores. And I know there's like a new millennial white woman coloring book trend, but it's like where you make really simplistic artwork design so that you can get really in depth with the coloring. Like there's a new TikTok trend for it. That's not what these are. In fact, these are so intricate that they low-key overwhelm me. Like, this is one of the few ones that I bought forever ago, back when I was still working at Target. And like, I just look at these pages and I'm like, the very idea of coloring this freaks me out. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, because I know I can't color any one of these in one sitting, which is what I want to do when I color. So I'm going to try to focus on some of the other coloring books I have first that are a little bit less nuanced, a little bit less intricate. But again, I just got to remember to like keep these in mind when I'm bored. And maybe just realize that maybe I don't like these that much, and I should just recycle it. The compost needs more browns. So maybe I'll just keep them on hand to recycle instead, and only keep the few that I am reasonably sure I would actually want to totally color out. Yeah, we might end up doing that. It is now time to introduce you to the other half of my crafting shame, and that is the fabric stash. Now, much of this is thrifted. There is a store in this area that is my kryptonite, because while the majority of the store is just local vendors, you go there to shop local and feel good, but the back room is all donated and secondhand craft supplies of every kind. It is paint and stamps and yarn and fabric. And at one point there was literally a whole Cricut machine, and it is all sold by the pound. And all of the proceeds go to an animal shelter. I am weak. I can't resist. It's a good thing that the store is across a river from me, Quad Cities, because if it was any closer, I would be in so much more danger. And even now, I'm already planning on going back because I need a very specific shade of red for a kerchief. So I'm going to spend a lot of time just continuing projects that I already told myself I was going to do. A lot of the t-shirts that are still hiding in here are going to be turned into t-shirt yarn to be made into a lawn blanket so I can lay out in the summer in the backyard. And there's just a lot of skirts I plan on making. I just got to finally kick it off and get over my fear of big sewing projects because your girl doesn't use a machine. I hand sew. Not to be the ultimate hipster bitch, but because the sewing machine just freaks me out. I don't like it. It's loud. Threading that damn thing takes forever, and then I somehow always get jammed, and I spend the majority of the time that I'm supposedly saving just trying to fix it. Hand sewing is just easier for my brain. So we're going to work on all those projects and finally get this down. The goal is to just have all the fabric be able to sit on this shelving unit comfortably. That's it. So this overstuffing, the fact that it sometimes falls off into the sides, that all needs to go away. We need everything to just fit on the shelf and make myself some fun new clothes to wear. Maybe, can I make socks? I want to try making socks. All right, moving on. And lastly is the one that I have made probably the most progress in so far, and that is tea. I love loose leaf tea. Yes, it tastes better than the bag stuff. I don't make the rules. It just is. But I used to have a giant collection. It used to take up all of the shelves on one side of our kitchen island, and I still had to place some other stuff elsewhere. And I have been doing a great job of drinking down at least the hot blends. I have all my blends split up into what gets made in single mug uses as hot tea and what gets turned into gallons of sweet tea. And obviously, I've been using up more of the hot tea recently. A lot of it, actually. I did a very good job over the winter of training myself whenever I felt cold, make tea. And in some cases, I was making 3 to 4 cups a day at the height of winter. So I got through a lot of it, which is great because there is a local tea place that recently opened and I want to see it not close. So I would like to be able to frequent them more. And my general goal is to keep only 2 to 3 of my casual hot teas and 2 to 3 of my casual cold teas. And by that, I mean the teas that I drink just for fun. I do have 2 sets of teas that I drink for health reasons. Spearmint tea for my PCOS. If you have PCOS, try spearmint. I don't know why it works. They've run scientific studies that show that it works, but not why. And also, I have a peppermint lavender blend for headaches. So obviously, I always need to have those on hand. I'm not going to let those ever run out, but beyond them, I'm going to have 2 to 3 cold and 2 to 3 hot for just fun drinking purposes. And hopefully when the weather turns warmer, I'll be able to start drinking up a lot more of the sweet tea stuff. And I know technically I could have been making sweet tea over the winter too, but it just, my brain doesn't want it in winter. I feel like I'm forcing myself to drink it in winter. My brain wants a lot more bright in your face flavors than the kind of tea that I make as sweet cold tea. So we'll get back to it when things get warm. As I film this, next week's weather is supposed to be fantastically nice. Maybe I'll make my first gallon then. I don't know. But this one, I'm doing well on. I'll continue to do well on. I don't think I'll have to really force myself to make it. And I am excited for what teas I can start buying when I'm on top of things and can regularly buy new teas just when I need them. Now you may be wondering, Margaret, you mentioned books. You have all the books behind you. Do you have a plan to use up books? No, I don't. Since I hit the 0 TBR in August of 2024 and for one glorious 2 hours had read every book I owned, my TBR hasn't really gotten out of control since. It stays under 30 books. Most books will be read within only a couple months of me getting them. I think the oldest on my TBR is from September of last year, and that currently is considered a TBR vet by my standards. So I will get those used up. I don't need to worry about those at all. At this point, I read enough for that. But in general, I want to combat the everything and its effect on my brain, and the knowledge that we probably won't be going out a lot anymore, and the fact that we have to save up for a new car in one of the worst times in recent history to have to save up for a giant purchase. So having all of these things in my house to focus on and to really cultivate those hobbies and to focus on everything I already have as a measure of gratitude, that's going to help a lot. And it will naturally lead to me not feeling the urge to buy new stuff because I'm still working through everything that I had, kind of making this almost a de facto low buy challenge without me having to set those rules. Because as a former poor, I know that if I set buying and spending rules, my brain would go to the extreme and we would end up in very unhealthy areas. So focusing on what I have and what I have to use and could cultivate, a lot healthier. But in general, I love the cultural reckoning we're having with materialism currently. I love watching all of those videos of the low buys, no buys, the stash downs, the, what's my yarn stash looking like? And like, I'm even watching Project Pan videos. I'm not a makeup girly. I don't wear makeup, but I'm sitting here going, yes, you use that Morphe palette. Like, it's addictive to me. I love seeing everyone being like, yes, we are going to have a reckoning with our materialism and actually get more conscientious. I love it. And I like being a part of it. And if you are a part of it, please let me know. I would love to hear about, are there other challenges for other niche communities that I haven't heard about before? Do the gamers have a use your stuff challenge? I would love to know. Please tell me about it down in the comments. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.